In this section, we are talking about number lines and inequalities and approximating square roots. So the first thing, though, is we have a definition. It's an isotherm is a curve on a map that connects locations where the temperature is the same. By looking at a large map with isotherms, you can get a rough idea what the temperature is like in many different locations. Looking at the map below, estimate the temperature in each city. So first we're looking at Las Vegas, and that's got an L on it. So if we follow that curve, it says 40 degrees. And since it's right on the curve, then we'll go ahead and say that Las Vegas is 40 degrees. For Phoenix, it's right here. And it is in this area between 40 and 50. Okay? And so it's a little bit closer to 50 than 40. It's not halfway, so we wouldn't say 45. Let's say about 48 degrees. Of course, we can't tell exactly, but we can get close. For Dallas, we're between 20 and 30, and it looks like it's pretty much right in between 20 and 30, so we'll say 25. Springfield is right here, and it's in the curve between 0 and 10, and it's about halfway, but slightly closer to 10, so let's say 6 degrees. The next we've got Georgia, Atlanta, and it's a little closer to 30 than 40, so we could say it's not 35, let's say 37. Next is Miami. And we can see Miami way down here is below the 50, so it's a little bit over 50 degrees there. Let's say it's 51. And last, New York, between 0 and negative 10, but closer to 0, quite a bit closer to 0, so let's say negative 2 degrees. And so that's how we read an isotherm. Use the number line to estimate the value represented by each point. Write a short explanation of how you decided on your answer. So first, looking at point A, it is, well, between negative 200 and negative 300. It's not right in the middle, so it's closer to negative 300. Let's say negative 290. And why would we say this? Because it's a little to the right of negative 300. Okay, B, let's say negative 220. Why? It's a little, that's supposed to be an I, to the left of negative 200. C, between negative 100 and negative 200, but not quite in the middle, so we'll say negative 130. We'll say it's about a third of the way between negative 100 and negative 200. D, let's say it's 30 degrees because it's about a third of the way between 0 and 100, but closer to 100. E, it looks like it's just about right on top of 100, but slightly to the right. So just slightly right of 100. And last, F, almost right to the middle, but not quite, slightly closer to 200. So about half, or let's see, almost halfway between 200 and 300. Okay? So, greater thans and less thans. We write that -2 is less than 3 because -2 is to the left of 3. And we say that 3 is greater than -2 because 3 is to the right of -2. Let's put the correct symbols in here, either less than, equal to, or greater than. So -10 is greater than -15 because it's farther on the number line. So we'll write greater than in there. -100 is less than 50. And square root of 25 is 5, so it's equal to 5. This one we want to plot. It says to plot a point that meets the given condition. So a number greater than 3. So 3 is right here, and we want a number greater than that. So we could pick 4. For 15, a number less than -3. So -3 is right here. So we've got to pick a number less than to the left. So we could pick -4. A number equal to 3. Well, that would just be 3. A number greater than -2, but less than -1. So it could be somewhere in the middle here. We'll say 2.5 or something. A number less than -2 and greater than -4. So in between there. So we could say -3. And then last, a number equal to -2. Well, that'd just be -2. In this next section, we're going to estimate some square roots. So we've got our square root table here. We know that the square root of 1 is 1. The square root of 4 is 2. The square root of 9 is 3. The square root of 16 is 4. Square root of 25 is 5. The square root of 36 is 6. The square root of 49 is 7. The square root of 64 is 8. The square root of 81 is 9. The square root of 121 is 11. The square root of 144 is 12. The square root of 169 is 13. Square root of 196 is 14. And I don't have this memorized. Oh, I should. The square root of 225 is 15. And so we want to estimate what could be the square root of 11. Okay, so we know that the square root of 11 is going to be somewhere between, the ones close to that would be the square root of 9 and the square root of 16. Okay, and we know the square root of 9 is 3, and the square root of 16 is 4. Well, 9, 10, 11. So we're a little bit closer to 3 than we are 4. So we could say maybe estimate it to be maybe 3.3. For the next one, the square root of 78. Well, that would be in between the square root of 64 and the square root of 81, or between 8 and 9. So we could estimate it, it's closer to 81, so we could maybe estimate it to be 8.8 maybe. Square root of 99, well, that's between the square root of 81 and the square root of 100. So it's between 9 and 10, but it's very close to 10. So we could say 9.9. And last, the square root of 124 is between the square root of 121 and the square root of 144. So between 11 and 12, but very close to 11. So we might say 11.2. If we put these in the calculator, the square root of 11 is to 2 decimal places, 3.32. So we were pretty close. Square root of 78 is 8.83. So we were pretty close again. Square root of 99 is 9.95. And in the calculator, the square root of 124 is 11.14. So you can see how we can estimate here. Okay, obviously we're not working in groups here, but it says use some educated guesses and don't look anything up. So, how many text messages do you send in a year? Well, let's see. Some people might say I send 50 text messages in a day. So we could pretty easily find out how many we send per year, multiply by 365, and you get that you'd send about 18,250 text messages. What's the information that you need for this? Well, we would need an actual number of texts that we sent each day or each day of the year. So that would be a lot of information to find out. But this is just pointing out ways that we can estimate things. How much would you spend on gasoline to drive from Daytona from here, which, well, we'll say here is Johnston County, even though I'm not there, to Daytona Beach, Florida? Let's see. About how long does it take us to get to Daytona? I would say it's around 12 hours. Okay? And you're going to drive, well, probably over 60 miles an hour. But as an average, because in some places you're going to have to drive less. So an average of 60 miles per hour. Okay, so that means you're driving 720 miles. How much is gas? So if gas is, or no, if you're, we don't know that yet, sorry. If your car, we need to know how much, what your gas mileage of your car is. So let's say the car is 25 miles per gallon. Okay, so we're going to divide by 25 to estimate that we're going to need 28.8 gallons of gas. And how much is gas then? It's it's more than this now, but we'll say $2.25 a gallon at the time that this problem was done. So it's going to cost you about $65 to get to Daytona. So what did you need here? You needed the actual distance. You needed your average miles per gallon. And you needed a price of gas. We've got a few more of these problems in our notes here. I'm not going to go through the next three. If you want to look at the notes that I've posted with all the solutions, then these problems will be on there in addition to some more. But I'm going to skip on to this problem here. It says, use the map to estimate the distance from St. Louis to New York. So St. Louis, where is that? Right here. And New York is somewhere over to the right. So right there. And so we've got a distance, if we could actually go in a straight line like that, about there. Okay, so we've got this 200 miles is right there. So that's about not quite two of my fingers. So let's see, 1, 2. I think it's a little bit there. 2. So a little bit over 3 of them. So let's say 3, it's more than halfway. So let's say, well, we'll just say 3.5. 3.5 times 200 miles for each of those sections. And so that would be 700 miles. The next example says, shopping provides a really good example of the value of estimation. Most people have a rough idea of how much they plan to spend in a given shopping trip. While you could pull out the old cell phone calculator and add up all your purchases to the cent, who has time for that? Instead, it's helpful to round prices to easy-to-use numbers and keep rough track of the total. Use this idea to estimate the total cost of each group of items. Do not use a calculator to get the exact cost. So for this one, we've got 4 boxes of macaroni and cheese. And we're going to say that macaroni and cheese is $1. Yeah, we got tax in there at some point too, right? So about $4 for our macaroni and cheese. A gallon of orange juice is $3.79, so let's say $4 again. A loaf of bread is $1.79. So let's say, since we rounded up on the other ones, let's round down on this one. And then 2 pounds of ground turkey at $2.97 a pound. So about $3 each. So that gives us $6. And that would total to $15. So we can expect to spend around $15 at the grocery store. And that concludes this section 1-4.